Okay, so I went and did a thing, and I'm swimming in a pool of guilt. So I know I'm a little late to this topic, but I thought I'd throw my hat into the ring anyway and get it out of the way. So over the weekend, I went and purchased the Pathfinder Beginner box set. Now, this has been a long time coming for me, and I've been sort of sitting on the sidelines watching this whole Pathfinder D&D thing play out over the past few years. And while I have been very educated on the differences between the two game systems, I've been reluctant to actually jump in and actually talk about it. Just sort of preferring to sit on the sidelines and watch how it unfolds and just have my own opinions and keep them to myself.
Point of humiliation. How does that feel?
Hey, off the field! Off the field, Tarzan!
Well, in this video, I'm going to throw down my opinions of the two systems and sort of get it off my chest, so to speak. Now, I'm approaching it from a little bit of a different way, and I'm not going to tackle the nitty-gritty, crunchy stuff that everybody seems to want to talk about as far as the rule systems. I'm going to talk about how the two different game systems make me feel as a dungeon master, and potentially are going to really tilt the favor as to which one I play coming up in 2024. Follow me, and we're going to talk about it. So if you follow the channel, you know that I'm a visual learner. What this means to me is that when I open books or when I look at books in the store, anything that's art related is going to jump out at me first. First and foremost, it's how the company presents its product, and also when I open it up, how it's laid out to me. Now, the first thing that jumped out at me about Pathfinder is that they have really taken great care in how this material is presented. Paizo has really put a lot of effort into making sure that players have a good visual sense of what the game is about and also the world that it lives in. Some examples of this is simply just the amount of care and detail that they put into actually having equipment laid out with names, and more than just, long sword, short sword, but they embellish on some of the items in the game world that they're talking about. So another example of this is the amount of artwork that is in the book in actual ratio to the printed word. Now, in past years of Dungeons & Dragons, the books had a crazy amount of artwork that was relevant to what you were seeing. I find that in the most recent 5e rule books is there is artwork, but a lot of it doesn't really resonate with me as to being important or relevant to what I'm reading on the page at that moment. The care and detail that Paizo puts into actual displaying their game world front and center in their rule books is just immensely satisfying. I like just looking through the rule books and get a feel for the game as well as the game world. This, to me, is probably the number one most important part of any new role-playing game that I pick up. Don't skip on the artwork, because all of us visual learners out there, people who really gravitate towards graphics and pictures and just in general, anything that's going to spark our imagination is a really important factor. Don't dismiss it. Now let's talk about crunch. Pathfinder supposedly has this sort of learning curve where you have to take on new rules and more advanced systems than, say, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. But I beg to differ. I mean, my time playing Dungeons & Dragons throughout my entire life has been just learning new rules as new editions came out. And, further to that, actually just jettisoning rules that I just didn't want to use. The whole role-playing game concept to me, whether it be Dungeons & Dragons or other games, is just take what you want and leave what you don't want. Pathfinder's no different in this. In actual fact, it has a lot of excellent rules and a lot of rules that aren't too difficult to get a handle on. I think the big challenge is the fact that you're coming from a game like Dungeons & Dragons where you've already learned all the minutiae to the game, and now they're throwing something different at you. It's a matter of just letting go of the stuff that you used to use and embracing some of the new rules. I, for one, actually enjoy some of the new rules. I find them quite innovative and, actual fact, bring a little bit more realism, but without sacrificing any of the flavor. I think when you hear people talking about crunch, they're just referring to the general package as a whole. And yeah, Pathfinder does have a lot of additional stuff in the game, in the core book. I mean, it's that thick compared to the Dungeons & Dragons book. So take what you want, leave what you don't want, and just embrace the fact that there is going to be some new elements to the game, and it'll just take time to learn it. Another thing that's important to me when picking up a new game or just diving into a game in general is what kind of content's out there for me. Now, most of the time I'm a homebrew kind of guy and I like creating my own adventures and my own worlds, but one of the things that's bothered me about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is that the cadence in which they release stuff is kind of long between supplements. Now, I'm an old school gamer. I come from the world where I could go into a store and buy a $10, $20 module, which is an adventure in a book. Essentially, that allowed me to keep my campaign going in between those big releases of the hardbound books. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition seemed to lean more into that hardbound major expansion type route. We didn't actually get smaller products or expansions or books or adventure paths to sort of pad out those smaller release windows waiting for the bigger ones. The other thing that I had a problem with is that when the big books finally did arrive, they didn't really do much to build out the game lore. Now, one of the things that Pathfinder has going for it is the fact that its game world and the game itself is blended into one cohesive whole. So you're not having to spread out your resources across multiple different campaign settings. So Dungeons & Dragons is kind of a vanilla, sort of open-ended game system, which allows game masters and dungeon masters to take advantage of any campaign setting that they feel is going to fit in with their player group. Pathfinder, by contrast, operates under one sort of cohesive game world called Galarium. Now, all the supplements that you can buy for Pathfinder take place in different areas of this overarching world, but it serves to actually bring the game together and feels a little bit more intimate than, say, Dungeons & Dragons in its generic setting. Overall, I'm really loving what I'm finding about Pathfinder. Now, granted, I only bought the beginner box, and I am intending to dive deeper into the game with a dedicated gaming group for myself. I have bought the digital copies, and I'm currently using the Demiplane character builder and digital books that are found on Demiplane. If you want to check out a top-notch, best-in-class character builder, right now Demiplane Pathfinder is the way to go. They've done an amazing job of implementing digital tools with the Pathfinder rules. The character sheets are amazing, and they're really simple to use and get into. Overall, I'm going to give Pathfinder a really big thumbs up right now, and I'm going to keep an eye on it. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm feeling really guilty for turning my back on Dungeons & Dragons, even just for a minute. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I hope you're all having fun playing Dungeons & Dragons out there. Talk to you soon. Before you go, I need your help. I'm trying to grow the exposure of what we do here at Maverick Games. My goal is to actually bring information to parents and students for fun, academics, and even support of neurodivergency. Please subscribe and make sure you click on those notifications. I don't do paid ads or sponsorships. I hope that you can find content here that's enjoyable for yourself and maybe others. Thank you very much, and thanks for tuning in.